And welcome back. This is your man Warrior. This is another patron roster review. This is Archaeon from Global Elite, and he's doing really well in regular and ships arena, but he wants a little bit of guidance on the next Zetas. There's a few Zetas he's thinking about, and what would I tell him to lean towards. Also, the mods on his arena team, do they look good? And he wanted to know some basic teams for the heroic Sith. And he said he didn't know if he should wait on the Bounty Hunter rework or not for gearing them up and whatnot. So we'll talk about that as well. And then also on ships, is he missing anything, or is there anything he should be finishing off? So kind of a rounded bit of a roster review. We'll start first with Zetas and mods on the team. I went ahead and looked at your team, and your mods were pretty impeccable all the way across the board. The only character that I saw that needed some change was this. I know this has 13 speed, and that's excellent, and the protection under an Emperor Palpatine is really good, but, big but, he really needs potency. He only has a 70% chance to stun. A 70% chance means that 30% of the time, even if you pass potency and tenacity checks, you will still be denied that stun, and the stun is critical. So you really need, when it launches at 70% of the time, for it to work 100% of the time for that 70%. And the only way to do that is to pass the potency tenacity check. So when we look at your potency, we notice your potency is only 50%. There are now a lot of new characters in the game that have base potency near 40%. And if the people are putting mods on their characters, there's a good chance that they're even accidentally getting over that 50% threshold. Now, I know that your character already has kind of a base 100% potency on the ability, but their base tenacity is going to eliminate your potency. And now you're down to just the base 85% of the time, having it pass on the 70% ability. I hope that makes sense, but basically you need to raise your potency up by about 30% if possible. So I was a little convoluted, but that's the only thing I saw on your mods that you might want to consider. The other thing is, we were talking Zetas, is the no escape Zeta. It's by no means necessary or required, but it does make this team just more durable, stronger. Obviously, him not having turn meter reduction is good, especially when you have characters that are doing turn meter reduction. Significant number of characters now in doing that. So because of that, it does make him a little more stout for arena, but it's by no means, like I said, required. Your Thrawn, because you use him in ships, you could Zeta his leader ability, and he's a great leader in territory battles, territory wars, specifically territory wars. Very, very good leader. And this Zeta is going to help make his ship faster and healthier. So make sure that you get this, because the faster your leadership ship is, the faster he's going to do his abilities, and you're obviously going to want to be ahead of the other side. It's only one speed, but every piece of speed makes a difference. Again, that's not a necessity, but it's one of those that I'd have up in the air and be considering. Also for Zetas, while you don't use Director Krennic, Krennic's guard makes this ship faster, his ship that he has, and it gives it more health. And Krennic and Death Trooper combined work really well in the heroic Sith raids. So if you're looking for kind of a combo for an Empire team, those two guys together work really well. And we know Death Trooper does really, really well in the Sith raids. So the Krennic's guard, again, not necessary, is a really good and viable Zeta. I took a look and saw you do not have roll with the punches yet. Now, I know you do not have Jedi Training Ray yet. You're working on that whole Jedi Training Ray thing, but you do have a BB-8. And so because of that, I definitely want you to know that this BB-8's phenomenal in any composition. I mean, he is really a good MVP, and his roll with the punches is phenomenal. So of all of the Zetas I have announced so far, roll with the punches is probably the one I would put on the top. And then I would probably consider Thrawn's lead, Death Troopers, and then Darth Vader's as the four the next Zetas you might want to consider. Now, traditionally in the Sith raid in phase 1, we would say Rey Jedi training would be the best team composition for phase 1, or, you know, for phase, you could put her in phase 4 as well, or even phase 3, but phase 1 is the best phase for her, and there's so many other comps for the other phases, but there's really not a whole lot available. If, in the meantime, you want to run a Rebels squad for phase 1, you could, because R2-D2, his first Zeta combat analysis actually allows for you to cleanse on a crit, and so definitely this team would be viable. Now, for the Sith raid, obviously you would want Commander Luke, R2, Han Solo, and then you're going to actually need a healer on this team, and you probably don't need Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's not going to do a whole lot. So someone like Admiral Akbar to give extra turns, have a cleanse and a heal on that would work really, really well, and then another healer as well for any of your healers. But this team really would be better suited, once you get RJT, would be better suited to throw into phase 3, and a lot of people affectionately refer to this as the Chex Mix team. Now, for the Chex Mix team that we're discussing, you will want Commander Luke Skywalker, R2-D2, Han Solo, and then, of course, you're going to need your Chirrut and Pow. Now, your Chirrut's 7 stars, so he's sufficient, but you will want to get him up a little bit more in gear. But your Pow is sadly at 2 stars, and so you're not ready yet for Chex Mix. Now, really why Pow works is because he puts the offense up, which you really need, and he is a rebel. So it's rebels that put offense up, and he does that job. And so that is why people are putting it. Plus, he's one of those characters that's never used in the game for anything, and this gives him a purpose in the game for the Chex Mix team. So you could definitely shoot for the Chex Mix team for phase 3, but again, you're going to need to work on Pow. So in the meantime, you can use your Imperial Troopers in phase 3. And here you go for your phase 3 Imperial Troopers: General Veers, Death, Shore, Stark, and Snow. And you know what they do. You've got them. You are aware of it. Just remember that you want to make sure with this that you get at least practice until you can get at least 2 topples in phase 3. You're shooting for 3 topples in Heroic if possible. And it is possible, but it's very difficult. You're going to have to practice, and there is a bit of RNG that plays into that. Now, for phase 4, I would recommend Night Sisters, First Order, Phoenix. Those are all 3 really good teams that will work well in phase 4. But I'm going to lean in on First Order and Night Sisters. Now, Night Sisters, you already told me you're working on, and you were saying, should I work on the Bounty Hunters? And so I would say wait on the Bounty Hunters, and yes, continue to develop your Night Sisters for phase 4. But because your Night Sisters are not ready for phase 4, this is the team I would recommend. They're all 7 stars, so you can take them into phase 4. Now, obviously, they're not quite ready yet, and your Kylo Ren Unmasked really needs his Zeta for this team to get their durability. And as far as what you have, First Order Stormtrooper, First Order Officer, First Order TIE Pilot, Kylo Ren, and Kylo Ren Unmasked are all great in the top row. Now, they could be played immediately. You can now farm the First Order Executioner, and I would highly recommend it. He is a very good First Order individual, and I would bring him in and replace the First Order TIE Pilot once, or the First Order Officer once that he is 7 stars. Your choice, depending upon how much damage you need. But the First Order Officer is kind of the engine for the First Order team. But the First Order Executioner is obviously extremely good, but you're going to have to farm him up. But for now, you have everybody else ready to go. But for Heroic, they're only Gear 8 average, and that's really not enough to do a whole lot of damage. So like I said, you're going to have to focus on continuing to develop this team. But I would recommend finishing this team not just for the Sith raid, but actually for Territory Wars. In my opinion, this is one of the very best defensive Territory War teams in the game. So because of that, you're not going to regret any investment into this First Order team. All right, so both arenas, you're looking really good. You could obviously roll with the punches with his Zeta for the first Zeta. You could do Thrawn's lead for the Empire. You could do Death Trooper or Darth Vader or Kylo Ren Unmasked leadership ability. There's some really great Zetas on the horizon for you. Those 5 are probably the ones I would be looking at. Your mods look good. Emperor Palpatine, again, just more potency. I'd add a potency cross with some speed secondary, call it good. Remember, phase 1 of the Sith Heroic, you could use RJT when you unlock her. Skywalker, but until then, do a Rebels team. Phase 2, use this team. The Literal Empire team you're looking at, it's phenomenal. Phase 3, your Imperial Troopers, and eventually you could evolve it to Chex Mix, which you need POW, so get POW, and First Order for Phase 4, with, of course, once you invest in Night Sisters, you'll be able to finish getting them off in Night Sisters. You can throw your Phoenix into Phase 4. They're going to get a little bit of damage for you. And wait on the Bounty Hunters. You only need your Bounty Hunters Gear 8 right now, Gear 9 for special missions, and then you can worry about which ones to take them higher once the reworks come out and we really see what's going on. As far as ships go, you're doing great. I would just say, as one last thing for ships, just continue to develop your Rebel ships. These are all ships you're going to have to continue to develop, so that way you can eventually finish off your 7-star Chimera, which is the ship that you are currently using at 5 stars in Arena. So continue to develop these characters. Also, you want to finish off Poe Dameron's ship, and of course, the TIE Silencer you have at 7 stars and pretty maxed out, but if you do take my advice on First Order, Kylo Ren Unmasked will get up there, and this would be a great backup ship because he comes in and can stun basically whoever you'd like, as long as they got more than 50% turn meters. So the TIE Silencer will become a ship that you'll end up enjoying, but Poe Dameron's X-Wing, work on that. Also down here, Scimitar and the Umbaran Starfighter, both of those are also very good ships in the backup. So I would highly recommend kind of continuing the development on those two, but very specifically Scimitar. Scimitar is the #1 best backup ship in the game, hands down. So I would highly recommend that you finish both the ship pilot, which is Darth Maul, and then also the Scimitar as well. Both of those need to be finished off. And that's it, Archaeon. If you have any questions, or if Global Elite has any questions, have them hit you up and hit me up through Discord. And make sure you keep your gaming on. Warrior out.